Call this meeting to order. This is the Bellflower City Council meeting, Monday, August 26, 2024, at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton.
Here.
Councilmember Morse.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Santinas.
Here.
Mayor Coops.
Here. Tonight we'll have the invocation provided by Councilmember Sonny Santinas and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Brian McNerney, the Interim Director of Public Safety. Please stand with me.
Let's bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life, the gift of community, and the gift of family. We thank you for giving us wonderful residents of the city of Bellflower. We thank you for giving us our wonderful staff. As we gather tonight, we thank the first responders, the members of our military, for keeping us safe. As we gather tonight, we ask for your blessing. We ask that you give comfort and blessing to those who are unhoused, who are hungry, who are sick, and those who are lonely. As we gather tonight to discuss the items before us, please enlighten us, guide us, and give us the wisdom to decide what is best for the community as a whole. We ask all this in your mighty name. Amen.
Please place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You may be seated. The 2024 Bellflower State of the City presentation will be held Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 at 11:30 a.m. at the Main Event Center. The State of the City presentation provides an overview and an update on the city's recent accomplishments and our future goals. I'm excited to share the amazing progress that we've made this year and what is to come in the future. For more information regarding the event and how to purchase a ticket, you can call 562-804-1424, and that is extension 2267. Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark your calendars. The 26th Annual Bellflower Car Show will be taking place Saturday, October 5th this year from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Come enjoy a great afternoon of family fun and see over 200 classic cars and trucks. There will be a lot of great food from our local restaurants, food trucks, and live music. The entry fee is open. The entry is free and open to the public. For more information, please visit Bellflower Car Show event at website www.bellflower-carshow-.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Councilmember Sonny Santinas.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. For Spanish-speaking Bellflower business owners and residents, the city is working with Asociación de Emprendedores to host a free 8-week program that will cover how to start, grow, and operate a business. The fall 2024 course will be held in person with sessions every Tuesday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., beginning on September 3rd to November 5th at Bellflower City Hall, second floor green room. Registration is now open. For details, call 714-627-2671. Buenas noches todos. Para los propietarios de negocios y residentes de Bellflower que hablan español, la ciudad está trabajando con la Asociación de Emprendedores para organizar un programa gratuito de 8 semanas que cubrirá cómo iniciar, crecer y operar un negocio. El curso de otoño de 2024 se llevará a cabo en persona con sesiones todos los martes de 5 en la tarde a 7 en la tarde a partir del 3 de septiembre hasta el 5 de noviembre. En el Ayuntamiento de Bellflower, en el Green Room, en el segundo piso. La inscripción ya está abierta. Para obtener más información, llame al 714-627-2671. Thank you, Mayor. Muchas gracias, señor alcalde.
Thank you, Sonny. Councilmember Wendy Morse.
Thank you, Mayor. The Bellflower Chamber of Commerce invites businesses, service clubs, and the community to join their next monthly morning mingle, which will take place tomorrow, Tuesday, August 27th, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. For more information, please call the Bellflower Chamber of Commerce at 562-867-1744. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Morse. Councilmember Victor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Bellflower. As temperatures continue to soar, so do the number of mosquitoes and the relentless itchy bites. Recognizing mosquitoes' impact on our daily lives, the Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control District launched its summer campaign last month, Safeguarding Public Health since 1952, with a focus on raising awareness on and outreach of its services to nearly 6 million Greater Los Angeles residents. If mosquitoes are bothering you and you'd like to submit a service request, or if you need more information on Vector Control District services, please visit www.glamosquitoes.org. Again, www.glamosquito.org. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Tonight we have a presentation from the Executive Director of Kingdom Causes, Andrew St. Nicholas. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, respected council members, Bellflower residents. Grateful to be here with y'all tonight, and just want to give a report on our 2023-2024 fiscal year, our objectives and outcomes. Just real quick, if anyone doesn't know, Kingdom Causes, our mission, our heart is to mobilize our community and provide transformative services so that all neighbors have a place to live, work, and belong. And we are excited to be celebrating 25 years of this next year. And I'm also grateful that Bellflower has been a partner of this since the very beginning. And so this is going on a 25-year partnership that we have had with the city of Bellflower, and we've seen a lot of good work happen. Particularly, we focus on a place to live with housing and homeless services, a place to work, hard-to-hire employment services, and a place to belong with our community building and with our community center. A place to live specifically focused on housing navigation. We have case management, homelessness prevention or rental assistance. We have Margaret's House, which is transitional housing for families who are struggling with homelessness, and Oak Street, which is a low-income housing that we own. In the 2023-24 fiscal year, we had 36 households prevented from losing their housing. We were able to help with the grant assistance from the city of Bellflower. 3 homeless households moved off the streets. 12 individuals stayed at Margaret's House, which is our transitional housing, and 9 households were subsidized with older adult flex funds. And this was mostly through our LMI-HAF grant, which is the low and moderate income housing asset fund. With New Hope Shelter, we had 20 housing navigation spots with the New Hope Shelter, so we were able to move 8 individuals into permanent housing, which is the most that had happened thus far since the shelter was built. 3 of those individuals utilized, so they were co-using the LMI-HAF funds, and 7 of those individuals were able to help utilizing the Good Soil Industries program, which is our hard-to-hire social enterprise. And this is through Bellflower and then the LASA Housing Navigation. Our second focus is a place to work, so specifically our Good Soil Industries, and then we have a partnership with LA Rise and Rio Hondo. So we had 42 individuals that enrolled in the program in the year, and this program, if you're not familiar, is part-time work that's paid at LA County raised minimum wage. And though they have work part-time, and then the other part-time is they're doing barrier removal, they're doing life skills, they're doing whatever they need in order to eventually get full-time employment. So ideally, it's a 1 to 3 month program. They're coming in, they're being kind of wraparound services, and hopefully they graduate from this program into full-time employment and then stay with full-time employment. And so 18 of those individuals actually were able to acquire and keep full-time employment, and almost half of these were specifically Bellflower citizens. And 7 of these were utilized in the year were actually New Hope residents as well. So again, crossing over with our different programs. Our last focus is a place to belong. And so our community center are just our belong aspect. We have housing support groups. So we're finding that a lot of times when people go off the street into permanent housing, the retention rate is lower than you may think, and so they need support, they need follow-up, they need retention, and so we have housing support groups where they can meet and it's just talk, there's a free meal, and it's just, how are things going, what are you struggling with, and it's usually led by a KCB staff as well as longtime folks that have been housed for years, as well as new folks that have just been housed, and so they're able to build off of each other. We have our Margaret's House, with again our facility that has transitional housing for families, particularly with minors that are homeless. Community events, we have our Lived Experience Advisory Board. So we just officially launched that last fiscal year, to where we have a board of lived experience individuals that advise the KCB board to make sure that the work that we're actually doing is the work that is needed by the people kind of on the streets, or seeing kind of what will most help. We do things like our hygiene kit packing parties, trying to keep our homeless neighbors as healthy as possible. And then we just landed a Thriving Congregations grant through the Lilly Foundation, which is a pharmaceutical, and that's a 3-year grant that the whole point of that is, how do we get churches in the city to actually thrive in their mercy and justice ministry? So how do we get churches back involved to being kind of the hands and feet of Jesus kind of thing in our city? And so we're excited to launch that. This is the first of 3 years that we'll have that focus. With our community center, we've served 1,417 individuals that have come in and out. And what's interesting about this is our community center actually was only open for the last 5 months of the last fiscal year. And so most of those were in those last 5 months. Thus far, this calendar year, so let's say these last 8 months, we've served over 1,000 people. So we expect this fiscal year to almost double what it did last year, and the people that are coming in, getting support, getting services, just having a place where they feel like they can take a breath and rest, and hopefully get to a point where they trust us enough to actually reach out and accept services, which is one of the biggest hurdles that we have into treating the least of those neighbors that are among us. A lot of these services will be tap cards, which is your free bus transportation. They can get ID vouchers through us, utility assistance throughout the year, hygiene kits. We have just community resources that are available. We have phones, we have internet and computers. They can receive their mail there, their support groups, life skill training. So just anything you may think that might help individuals actually feel supported and like they belong in our community. And again, we can then assess and see what other services they may need. The bulk of this is resourced through a Kaiser community grant that we have, and also we have a Love Thy Neighbor Fund, where we have local citizens and church organizations that are donating money just to help support this. And so we have, I think, almost $8,000 from last year that was supported by just people hearing about what we're trying to do and getting excited about that. So these are Bellflower residents helping Bellflower residents, which is really encouraging to see. Some of the hurdles, because a lot of good news, a lot of good numbers, meeting our goals, but looking forward to the next year, I wanted to give you, everyone, just kind of heads up on what we're seeing as potential hurdles. So this next fiscal year, one of the big things is the loss of housing navigation for New Hope Shelter. So the current grant holder has pulled those back. And so the difficulty we see with this is they don't have boots on the ground in our city. So our shelter is in our city, but they don't know the landlords. They don't know the business. They don't know kind of what's going on. So that's just potentially could be a hurdle to where we saw really good momentum. We saw really good progress, particularly with our staff that was focused only on the shelter, gaining relationships with Mercy House, relationships with the folks that were there, beginning to trust. And then what would happen is they would trust him, and then the word would spread in the shelter, and then other people would be willing to trust. So just an idea of a potential hurdle coming up. That's our housing supportive services. We are still trying to help as much as we can. So we do reach out if they have folks that meet any of the criteria of our programs. Mercy House knows they can reach out to us. And we currently have 3 people from New Hope Shelter that are part of our GSI program. So we are still, our doors are wide open, trying to help as much as they can, but our hands-on ability to actually help has lessened because we just lost those cases. A second hurdle is just funding amounts and restrictions not keeping up with realistic numbers. So a lot of what we had and the numbers that were needed to help folks get on their feet, to get stable and to not lose their housing or to get off the street, current just grant restrictions on the max amounts we can have or just the amount of the total grant isn't keeping up with the need, the rising costs of rent, the not meeting with Social Security. And so we just see that as potentially being a bit of a hurdle this next fiscal year of just trying to keep up with the demand of rent and what people are going to need. And the last one that we have, it's kind of a big one, is the loss of the older adult flex funds. So for a while, we had a couple grants this last year, and they had funds understanding that the older adults is a population that homelessness is rising. So the LA homeless count just came out. For LA County, we were down like 0.27% from last year, which is great. But the two demographics that went up were older adults and families with young children. So both of those went up, and the adult and the transitional youth went down. And so what you're finding is the older adults, specifically their Social Security, aren't keeping up with rent, so they're not able to stay into housing. So even this last year, we were able to utilize 25% of the people that we could help with all the numbers that we just talked about. I was just talking about were subsidized with these older adult flex funds that we had through one was through United Way and one was through Kaiser. But it's not the streamline of how funding is going. So there's no one offering older adult flex funds now. So it's just one of the things that we're trying to get creative. We have a really good team, particularly at our housing programs. Jason here is the director of housing programs. Him and his team are doing a really good job of trying to get creative to where, for example, like with landlords, like, hey, we can handle their rent going forward. We can handle this down payment going forward. Can you work out a deal with them to pay off what they owe? Because we can't pay for that. Where normally we could have done like older adults for what they owe. We'll help with going forward. And because of the relationships that they're forming with landlords and things, we see some of this working. We just see that though being a hurdle going forward as we find more and more cases that we're just not going to be able to help because the funding isn't there for that demographic. So just something else to be aware of. Some of the things that we're excited about, going 25 years, the good and bad and the ugly, but we're still here trying to do the hard work, and with partners like Bellflower and surrounding partners able to keep doing that. Our LA Rise grant, which is our Good Soul Industries, was highlighted last year as one of two of the organizations in LA County and LA Rise that were the organizations to try to copy. And so they're asking how it is that we're doing what we're doing. It's a relationship with a social enterprise and an AJCC, which does the life skill training, and our relationship is really good. They increased our grant by almost 100% to say, hey, we want to see more numbers than what you had because we feel like your systems and structures are working. They're utilizing Good Soul Industries as an example of, hey, other folks that are struggling, go talk to them, see what they're doing kind of stuff. So we're excited about that just to see that program working. Strong existing partnerships. We're excited about some new partnerships within SPA 7 organizations as people are hearing about the work and the heart that Kingdom Causes has. They're excited to try to see how we can work together and partner, just to try to help as many people as we can. And one of the great things I'm excited about is we have a solid team. We're fully staffed up. We know you guys are around. We had some struggles at the beginning of last year. We are fully staffed up, and this is our current KCB team that's creating places where all of our neighbors can live, work, and belong. And that is my presentation. I am open for any questions or comments.
How many employees do you currently have?
So currently we have
Is that all of them, or is that?
This is full-time staff. So we have these full-time staff, but then we also are transitional employees in our GSI is considered employees, but they're part-time and they're through our program. So we'll have anywhere between 6 and 9 transitional part-time employees through our Good Soul Industries program.
So that would mean you've got
14.
14, okay.
Yeah.
And there have been some changes in that since you assumed
There have
leadership.
been, yes, there have been some changes. I think since last year, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are here from last year, 5. So 9 of the 14 are new since
But
last year.
the total number is reduced as well, hasn't it?
Yes, the total number is reduced from that, and that had to do with, we had a lot of grants coming into COVID. LASA had a lot of money for outreach and things, so we had a bigger staff, and then when they pulled back those funding, then our overhead, our staffing just had to lessen to reflect that.
Okay.
Yeah.
See if there's any other questions here. Mr. Santinez, any questions of the Kingdom Causes organization?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew, for the presentation. It is very informative. Can you explain more about Margaret House? How does it work? And you mentioned that the population being served are families and things. Can you talk more about it?
Yeah, so Margaret's House, we've had almost 10 years now, and it's a facility that was owned by a lady named Margaret who just loved hospitality, and so she had built, when she retired, a back house as a bed and breakfast. So it's a 3-unit, kind of studio unit, bed and breakfast, big open spaces. And so Kingdom Causes realized a while ago that these transitional families, a lot of times they wouldn't go into shelters or places because there's nothing close by, and so they're going to have to go really far away. And there's a lot of fear of even asking for help, and so because of potential getting your kids taken away from into foster care and things. So we bought this, and then the idea is you would have 2 to 3 families at a time that kind of have wraparound services. So they have housing navigation through KCB staff or partners, and then case management would be with the front house being live-on-site staffing that would just be doing life. So currently my family, me and my wife, my 2 kids, are in the front house with another 2 volunteer staff members that are wraparound service. So we do dinners 3 or 4 times a week. We're there to meet regularly. We help out with kids stuff. And so the idea of like, let's do life, and then you can have time to take a breath and just figure out where you're at. It's mostly single parents that are utilizing this facility, and then we're able to help with any of the other kind of barrier removal stuff that we do with any of our other folks that come into. And so ideally, it's not fast moving. So ideally, we're getting that 6 to 12 individuals a year just because they're needing that time to get on their feet. But then the hope is that the retention numbers are a lot better. We're also a reunification site. So the LA County foster system will recognize us if a family lost their kids or parents. If they can get accepted into our program, they'll reunite their kids in our program, and actually opens up the doors to a lot more resources they couldn't get while their kids were still separated.
I see.
Yeah.
So are there any kind of programs to kind of teach them like life skills, employment, things like that?
Yeah, so they can utilize any of our other KCB. They actually would be kind of top on the list of any of our other KCB or GSI type stuff. And a lot of the life skill things we will identify and then offer to them as needed. So we have a lot of professional volunteers that will come in that can help. We have homework clubs that are going. If it's parent, my wife and I are certified for marriage and family counseling, and so we'll do that. And so we have kind of like, what is it that they need? And then we have the connections and resources to be able to provide that specific care for that family or that parent or that child.
I understand that it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but on average, how many months do they stay at Margaret House?
Yeah, on average, since I've been there, we've had one. It's ideally, I would say on average, it's 6 months to a year. So we're hoping to kind of get that more to the 3 to 6 month, but it just kind of depends on where they're at and what they're doing. Right now, we have a mom, for example, who fled abusive relationship, who is not sure if her ex will show up at any time. So she has 3 kids that are minors, but they're older. She's got a job, and there's just a lot of fear and kind of what's going on. And so that's something that she's been there for 3 months. We expect her to be there for another probably 1 or 2 months as we get everything kind of ironed out and going. And then we've had some that have come in and left quickly. We've had one that before I came in that was there for almost 18 months before they kind of went out. And so it's kind of, case by case. But all of this, Margaret's House is fully private funded right now. So all of this is money from private, no government or grant money is going towards Margaret's House right now.
I see. Okay. So typically, where would they go?
From here?
From Margaret House.
Yeah, it depends. We've had some that are reunified with family, which is becoming more and more of a strategy of saying like, hey, we don't have beds in houses, so are there other family or stuff you can go with? We have some that have gone into housing in Bellflower. We have some that have gone into other places. To my knowledge, none that we've housed since the beginning have gone back on the streets. There was one a few years ago that left intentionally to live in their van, but that was their choice. They just didn't want to follow through with the program, because the program is somewhat regimented to where it's like, hey, you have this place, but there are expectations that you're here. You do the best you can, and if we see that, then you're able to continue to stay. And the expectations are you're cleaning up after yourself, you're being kind to the other residents that are there, which is helping them learn life skills of going through. You are actually looking for work, you're making sure your kids are getting what they need in school. So it's just very kind of common expectations, but a lot of that are big steps for some of these families. And so it takes just that patience to kind of work through that and understand them. And so that's why living on site is really helpful, because we're just around them all the time.
As far as you know, has anyone gone to a permanent supportive housing to the county?
I don't know of any. Do you know of any that have gone?
But not permanent supportive housing, just vouchers. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. And then one more thing. You mentioned about the funding for the housing navigation. Where's the funding coming from?
Having with New Hope Shelter,
Yeah.
that came from LASA through PATH. So we subcontracted with PATH for the year since the shelter was opened.
And
then
they're defunding that particular program.
PATH is taking all the case management on themselves. And so they're not subcontracting anymore.
Oh, I see.
So they're having.
But will the service still be provided to our unhoused population?
As far as I know, they still have 20 slots at New Hope Shelter, which is what you guys have had since the beginning of it being open. So I don't know if they've adjusted that, but they hold a contract for 20 housing navigation
I
slots
see.
for New Hope.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Very good report. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
presentation. I just appreciate all the work that you and your KCB team are doing in our community. You have a rich history, obviously, within Bellflower. I think I wanted to touch on Council Member Sunny Santinez's question about the funding on the navigation side, because I think that's going to be, I think that's going to hurt the community. To see KCB not be able to be a part of that and to facilitate that. I know you guys have been successful in the recent years in transitioning people in and through the shelter. Has there been any efforts on your end, on our end, collaborate with you to communicate with PATH and LASA and all these other entities to continue that level of funding for KCB?
Yeah, we currently have an application in with LASA to be an approved vendor, which is would be the process, and I think we're just waiting to hear. So I think some of y'all have reached out. We've had some people reached out, but LASA's a big animal, so we're kind of in the works of hopefully being approved, and then from that point, a lot of that will depend on them and you guys if you guys put pressure and go through. I don't know how well PATH will do. Like this will be the first year that they've done it. They may be better than us. I don't know. They don't have as much of an ear to the ground as we do to our city, and so I think that just gives us a leg up in general. But yeah, so hopefully we'll get approved, and then we can have the conversations because there's a lot more housing navigation that's going around. I don't know necessarily that they are sold out to have the New Hope Shelter 20 spots. They may be okay being like, hey, we're good to let that one go, and then we can absorb it and we can get back to doing what we've been doing for this last.
The vendorization process, is that through the county, LA County, or is that through LASA directly?
It's through LASA directly.
LASA directly.
So we have the application in. If anyone has LASA contacts, you reach out and just let them know our application's there, because I'm guessing it's in a pool of hundreds or thousands of applications, and they can pull that out. But it is in, according to my last conversation with them 2 weeks ago, was it's in. They have all the information they need. It's just waiting to go through their process.
So ideally, you'll get re-vendorized, or you'll get vendorized and be able to get funded directly through LASA.
Right. So
and we
once
can pass on or avoid pathways, and essentially, or path.
yeah, if there's an opportunity to take the slots at New Hope Shelter, we'll apply for that and hopefully be able to get that.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Wendy Morris, got any questions?
Thank you, Andrew, first of all.
Yeah.
And Jason and Kim. I mostly want to just commend you guys over the last year. You guys have done an incredible job here in the city. Good Soil Industries, Gene does an amazing job with when we have an issue. I do hire Good Soil, and I just I really want to thank you guys for that. You guys have done a great job, and it's too bad on the flex funds for seniors. I work in senior living, as you know, and I've had tenants that have utilized those funds, and they've been extremely helpful when it was needed. And I'm sad to hear that that's going away, not by your guys' doing, but it's too bad. Our seniors could really utilize that. But yeah, again, I just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Dutton?
Great presentation, Andrew, and thanks for taking time out of your day to come here and give us this presentation. I'm sure Bellflower and our audience likes hearing something like that of what actually is the next step to the unhoused and how those families, which are more so important, and veterans and people that want help to be able to get somewhere. And we all know funding is a big issue, and that's what ties your hands sometimes, and totally understand. But you're a trooper. You just keep going.
Got a
Thank
good
you.
team, so
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
Andrew, I was surprised to learn when we first met that, well, you tell the public what your degree of college is.
I'm an engineer by trade.
He's an engineer by trade, but he's got a heart for this. And he could probably make a whole lot more money doing something else besides helping the homeless and the poor and the needy. But this is your heart, and it shows. And we're so grateful that you've taken the responsibility to make it better. And so thank you for the report. We appreciate the report and appreciate you bringing Kim and Jason here with you.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Thank you for being
Awesome.
here.
All right, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, public comments, Mr. Smoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the time set aside for the public to address the city council on matters not listed on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the city council should come to the podium, be recognized by the mayor, and state your name for the record. If you wish to address the city council on an agenda item, you may do so by approaching the podium as we review that particular item. You'll be given 3 minutes to address the city council.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
You got your
Mayor?
name signed in there and
I haven't signed in.
make it official. We do that because we make minutes and we often need to know how you spell your name so we get it right in the minutes. So that's what it's about. And then announce who you are. All
Good
right.
evening, Mayor and Honorable Council. Wanted to come and just thank the city, you all, city manager, and especially your public works team. As some of you might know, last week, or I don't know, I think it was last week. It was last week. Our flag. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm with the Bellflower Kiwanis Club.
As
I'm
the
the
president.
president.
Yeah.
Thank you. As you know, we maintain and own the flag along the 91 freeway and Bellflower Boulevard. And last week, tragically, the wind made it fall. Thankfully, thankful that nobody got hurt, so that's good news. But wanted to thank the city, especially your public works team, for actually retrieving the flag for us. Just wanted to give an update that I'm working with local troops and trying to coordinate a proper retirement of the flag. And probably we'll come back again to give you more updates on how that is, because I also heard you all have some flags that need to get retired as well. So we want to organize something to properly retire those flags, including our big one. And hopefully by next week, we should have the flag back up along the freeway.
Jerry Cleveland delivered a new flag to Public Works today, I understand. So we have the flag, we just need to get it arranged. The rope broke and the
Yes.
flag came down. And
Yes.
so that. I
And also
wanted-
thanks to the community. There was a lot of Facebook messages about it, and that's how I found out. And so just thankful for the community for letting us know and for caring so much about our flag.
No, it was interesting to see how many people recognize and know that's our trademark. And we
Yes.
lost our trademark for an hour or two, but we'll get it back up there. And those flags are about $1,800, and we usually go through 2 or 3 a year just from the wearing out process. But we try to keep them crisp and clean and new, and it was very seldom do we lose one like we did this past week. But I'm glad to hear that the Kiwanis continues to support that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Cheryl.
Good evening. I would just like to, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I would love to I commend the city for the Bellflower Symphony concert in the park Saturday night. It was awesome. I have a friend that plays in a symphony orchestra in Prescott, Arizona, and they're good, but I think ours is, don't ever tell her that. But there was one problem. I went online, both to the city and Parks and Recreation and just to the park itself. I couldn't find what time it started. So last week I was here at the library and I walked over to City Hall and asked at the information booth, and he actually couldn't find it either, so he had to call, I guess, somebody at Parks and Recreation. So in the future, just something to kind of be aware of, because I was so looking forward to it. And thank you, it was awesome.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yes, sir. Announce your name and please sign your name, please.
That's what I'm doing.
Thank
Robert
you.
Franklin. You know who I am.
You were here last
Yeah, I
meeting.
called you all last week. You never returned any of my calls. I came down here 3 times.
We're not receiving your calls that you indicated you're making. We didn't hear them before. We haven't heard
I
anything
came
this
down
week.
here to this building.
All right, you, last meeting, we had you meet with the captain, City of Lakewood.
Didn't nothing become of that. They still got my car. Nobody told me nothing.
Apparently, you're well-known at Lakewood Sheriff.
How you know?
I talked to the captain.
You don't even know who I am. If you know who I
I
am,
know who
why don't
you are.
answer-
You were here 2 weeks
Okay,
ago.
won't you answer my phone calls then?
Because you haven't given me one.
You got a direct line?
To the City Hall.
Okay, I like to have that.
Write it down. I'll give it to you right now.
And next time I talk, I'm talk to my friend Mark about something. Next time we talk.
All right, thank you for your comments. Anybody else want to give any testimony on the non-agenda item? Okay. Moving on. Mr. Smoot, 11B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry.
11A, excuse me.
I'm going to hand this one off to Mr. Gurecki.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Tonight, we have a consideration and possible action to conduct a public hearing to consider proposed adjustments to the maximum rates for residential, commercial, and multifamily solid waste collection services here in Bellflower. Would be through Resolution 24-51. And I have a couple slideshows here, or a couple slides to go through with you here. As background, in 2011, the city entered into a revised and restated solid waste franchise agreement with CR&R. The agreement has been amended twice since that time to adjust and incorporate state-mandated requirements for recycling and organic waste programs over the last 5-6 years. The current term for the franchise agreement is set to expire on August 31st of 24. Back in August of 2023, the City Council established an ad hoc committee consisting of 2 council members to start review the existing franchise agreement with CR&R and to take a look at some of the options that we could possibly improve on in terms of services. The committee, along with representatives from CR&R, Muni Environmental, who's the city's environmental consultant, as well as staff, met on several occasions since 23 to review the existing franchise agreement. And the proposed changes through a third amendment, which is before you this evening, requires a Prop 218 hearing. Just real briefly on Proposition 218 requirements, it's an initiative passed by the California voters back in 1996 designed to allow for greater public involvement in rate-setting processes for public agencies. It requires agencies to mail a public notice to every property owner and customer of record within the service area when proposing a rate change, and it establishes a protest process if they wish to oppose the proposed rates. In 2018, the City Council adopted Resolution 1818, which established the Prop 218 procedures for increases to solid waste rates. And it also requires the City Council to approve a 45-day notice for the proposed adjustments. Back at the council meeting on June 24th, 2024, the City Council approved the Prop 218 public hearing notice, which provided notice of tonight's public hearing. It contained the link to the city's website that listed proposed rates for all service categories over the next 5 years. Disclosed that if the proposed rates are approved, they will take effect on September 1 of 24. And it contained the official ballot for property owners and customers of record wishing to protest the proposed rates. On July 10th of 24, the notice of public hearing was mailed out to 13,523 property owners and customers of record, informing them of tonight's public hearing. Rates cannot take effect if the City Council finds that a majority of the ratepayers protest the rate increase. A majority protest with the current mailing would equal 6,761 or more protest ballots. As of this afternoon, the city had received 135 protest ballots. The city clerk updated that for me right before the meeting. We're up to 153. But either way, it does not meet the majority protest threshold. Adoption of Resolution 2451 would establish the potential rate increases for solid waste services through August 31st, 2029. If CR&R were to come back and request additional rate increases to the potential rates presented here tonight, then another Prop 218 proceeding would be required. So part of the highlights or some of the things I wanted to highlight for the council this evening, we went over this back in June, but with the third amendment, the proposed amendment that was before the council back then, there's some noteworthy items that bring to light here. First off, there is no rate increase proposed for residential counts for the first year. That means the rates that they're paying currently will be the rates they continue to pay for the next year through August 31st, 2025. Additionally, CR&R introduced smaller cart sizes, which are 65-gallon and 35-gallon. And those options are for residential services, and they also represent a reduction of approximately 5% of that rate. So they get a discount for 5% for 65, and if you dropped all the way to 35-gallon, you're probably almost seeing a total of 10% in terms of your discount off your rate. Rate reductions additionally for organic collection, green waste only bins, and manure bins. CR&R is proposing a rate increase of 15% specifically for commercial accounts that use 2- and 3-yard recycling bins. The agreement term as part of the amendment is for 8 years, which takes it through August 31st, 2032, with an option to exercise a single 2-year extension if both parties agree at that time. CR&R will annually pay an infrastructure impact fee of $200,000 to the city beginning January 1 of 25. These funds will be used for infrastructure improvements to the trash enclosures on city-owned parking lots in order for the city to be in compliance with the state mandated requirement for a three container collection system. CR&R will establish an abandoned item collection team that will work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, for 8 hours each day, patrolling city streets and alleyways to pick up and dispose of abandoned items. At the direction of the city council, there is the option for an additional layer of coverage, which can be added. However, this cost will be passed through to the customers, and this is accounted for in the rate index or the rate proposal as well. CR&R has agreed to replace all the collection carts for single-family dwellings as well as multifamily dwellings. So all new carts, they will be the nature of a black body, and then the lids will be colored black for regular trash, blue for recyclables, green for organics. Then there's an aggressive collection vehicle replacement program that they have offered as part of this amendment. Essentially what we're seeing here is based on the current fleet inventory, we'll have 4 vehicles replaced in 2025, 3 vehicles will be replaced in 27, and 1 vehicle will be replaced in 28. Additionally, CR&R will be replacing both the street sweeper as well as the backup street sweeper by the end of 2025. And CR&R has agreed to repaint all the collection vehicles every 5 years, or if the city provides them with a notice to do so prior to that. And then finally, there was some slight changes in the amendment that switched the billing cycle conversion for commercial and multifamily. They typically were billed in arrears, and now they're going to bill in advance. As part of that, there's a lag month. So CR&R has agreed to allow the customers to split that cost of that one lag month over the next 12 months. So it will be a minimal impact to their bids or to their bills. The state mandated compost and mulch procurement, again, the city is mandated by the state to purchase a certain amount of certified compost and mulch. We've come up with an estimate of that we can purchase right around 2,000 cubic yards. the state's requirement for us to purchase the amount they would like to see us to purchase, or what we're required is 6,700 cubic yards. So we added a service category to this as well in the proposed rate structure. Again, we saw this a month and a half ago, but this is just a comparison with the single-family residential cart service rate. This is the majority of the rates that we have here in the city fall in this category. And as you can see, Bellflower is just a smidge above the medium here, $29.13. And again, that is would be the rate continuing through the upcoming year. So no rate increase for the single-family residents. And then our most popular commercial counts are the commercial 3-yard bins 1 time a week. And again, here they're just slightly above the median here, the city of Bellflower, compared to the other surrounding cities. So with that, the recommendation this evening is to open the protest hearing, take testimonial and documentary evidence, and after considering the evidence, adopt resolution number 2451. Approve CR&R Incorporated's rate adjustment request effective September 1, 2024, or alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. So not only myself, but there's representatives from CR&R as well as Muni Environmental here this evening to answer any questions as we proceed through the public hearing, the protest hearing.
Right, thanks for the report. We'll start off, Wendy Morris, would you like to have any questions of staff on the report?
You actually, I've noticed in our staff report, regarding the bulky item pickup, where I appreciate in the city of Bellflower, all bulky item pickups are free, including with commercial residents, commercial properties and residents. But in other cities, it's not free, because I pay bills for the other cities too. I noticed in here that it says bulky item for commercial will be charged. There's a rate in there. Is that gonna stay still free for commercial?
That Crystal, can you help out? Yeah, with the rates.
Hi, good evening, Councilmember Morse. We offer unlimited bulky item services for residential, multifamily, whether you have cart service or bin service, but there's always been a fee for commercial customers, so business customers.
So there's the commercial side is different. It's multifamily apartment
different.
buildings per se.
Correct.
Still
They have
free.
unlimited bulky item, it's still free.
It's the,
Commercial business.
okay. I wasn't aware of that because I don't use it that way. Okay. I just noticed and I was like, wait a minute, we don't pay currently. So, okay.
Yeah, so if it's for a senior housing complex or a
Right.
multifamily complex where you have ongoing residents living there, that would be considered part of the multifamily. That's unlimited as well, just like it is for residential customers with cart service.
Okay. I thought that was considered commercial because when we call it in, it's a commercial account. So that's where I read it. All right. Thank you, Crystal.
Welcome.
Stay up there, you probably have more. Mr. Dutton?
Yeah. Just to be sure, since the residential trash fees are not going to get raised this year, and they're going to go up September 1st of next year, whatever's decided here tonight on this dais that's going to include the increase for 2025 for residential?
Correct. So
Okay.
the way the Prop 218 notice works and the way our amendment is written, so the increase is based off the CPI index. So if, per se, the index rate is 3.7% for the next year, that's what the rates would increase by. For the purpose of doing the Prop 218 notice, we're allowed to cap it at 5% to continue to carry a consistent rate increase through the entire term of the Prop 218 notice here. So regardless of whether or not the CPI remains above remains below or at 5%, CR&R cannot increase it more than 5% in any given year. So Typically, the way the CPI trends, it's usually in the 3% somewhere. And that always will be what the number is. So it will be less than what they see here in the rates by a few cents. It'll never be more than 5%. If I think CR&R gets to a point where they want to charge more than 5%, then as I mentioned, they would have to bring that back to the city council and we'd have to start a whole new Prop 218 process all over again.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just making sure we didn't have to go through the 218 process for residential next year, but thank you.
All right. Councilmember Sunny San Ynez, questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the benefit of the public, can you mention the mechanics of Prop 218? What will trigger another Prop 218? Because, for example, let's say you mentioned that the cap, based on the contract, this proposed contract, the cap is 5% increase. So if that were the case, Prop 218 will not be triggered, let's say after 2025.
Yeah, so the Prop 218s, you can only run them in 5-year increments. So this current one that's before the council tonight starts with September 1, so the 24, 25, and will run all the way through 28 through 29, ending August 31st, 2029. Each year in that rate, we have to assume the maximum amount, which is capped at 5%. So when you see the notice, or when you saw the notices and how the rates were broken out, they're all assuming the 5% increase from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. That increase, again, is capped at 5%, but the way the amendment is written, it will only be what the CPI index number is for that given year. So if the CPI index is 2.7% for the upcoming year, that's what the increase will be. It will not be 5%.
Okay.
So
what will trigger CR&R to ask for an increase? Let me rephrase that. What will cause CR&R to ask for an increase that will trigger another Prop 218?
It would have to be something that comes down as a state mandate. If they required us to implement some other kind of a environmental program or some kind of a recycling program, something that was going to increase their operational cost of CR&R, where it would exceed the 5% in any given year for their contract, then they would have to bring that back to the city council, make that request. We'd have to run another Prop 218 hearing at that point.
Okay, that's a good point. So short of any new mandate from the state or whatever it is, they cannot ask for an increase more than 5% because they're basically locked in. That's their cap per year. Correct?
Yeah, that's the cap based on this Prop 218. CR&R can come and ask for a 10% increase, but I don't think they're going to do that. They don't have a history of
They cannot based on the contract that we're going to be signing.
No, they can't. I said they can ask for anything.
Right.
It's just it'll revert back to the contract and the Prop 218.
Ryan will just say take a hike.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Basically. Okay.
Exactly.
So, and then how about, let's say, worst case scenario, inflation is, let's say, 5%, and we trigger that provision for the second team of bulky item pickup. Will that trigger Prop 218?
No, because that's included in this Prop 218 notice.
Okay. So I just want to assure our listening public that basically we're locked in for the next 5 years under Prop 218. There won't be increase more than 5% unless it is a significant mandate from the state that will trigger an increase over 5%.
And even in that case, CR&R would still have to bring that before the city
Yes.
council, and we'd still have to start a whole new Prop 218 notice again.
Okay.
It just doesn't get rubber stamped and passed. That's not
Correct.
how it works.
Correct. Okay. Very good. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Len, thank you for the presentation. Just a couple questions. First off, I read through the report and the agreement. I didn't see anything regarding graffiti removal of the bins and the proactiveness that was requested at the last meeting, unless I missed it.
It's in the original agreement. It's in there. It's just more of a matter of bringing it back to light between the two sides, and then initiating the process with them to get it removed within with a 24 or 48 hour period.
Do you have that language in front of you?
I do not know.
Okay. Is it proactive? Is it their responsibility, or is it similar to the page 19 with the repainting schedule? I know this is for the vehicles, and that's great that they will at least paint them every 5 years or within a 30-day notice from the city. How does that read for the graffiti removal on the bins?
I don't have it here in front of me, but I think for the most part, you know, when they're servicing the bin and it's graffitied, our expectation is that the graffiti will be removed. As I understand it, the drivers have paint on their trucks. They have the ability to take it out. Now, if all four sides of a bin are just hammered from, you know, top to bottom, left to right, then that would be something I don't necessarily think that the driver would be able to handle with a rattle can. At that point, it would be something that we would need to request for them to come out and do a bin switch, or their driver should be making that request. The issue is when they service that bin and they put it back, they may not be back to that address for 6-7 more days. And if it gets tagged immediately, then that means it's sitting on the property tagged up for 6 or 7 or 8 days. If we see it, or if you see it, please let me know. And it's a quick telephone call to CR&R, and we report it to them and have them switch it out.
No, and I understand that, and we do that now, but I think my goal is to move it away from a reactive approach or reactive efforts to a more proactive effort. So I just wanted to kind of get an idea of what it read like, but maybe I can include something like that in a motion to ensure that it's included in there as a proactive effort. Public Works is already responsible for so much throughout the city, and if we can be proactive on this end and put it on CR&R's plate to do it proactively, then so be it. My next question is regarding the 5%. How was that determined?
The 5% is the maximum allocation.
No, I understand that,
you're allowed
but
to
how was
request.
5% determined? What was the process in which that number came about? Why is it 5%? Why is it not 3%? Why is it not?
Because so you're doing a Prop 218 for a worst case scenario.
Right.
So we use the worst case scenario number, which could be 5%. So that's the one that we applied across all 5 of the years. We can't, it can't be 6%, it can't be 7%. It's capped at 5%. So,
Right.
so that's the number we use.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that it's capped, but
Because if we set it at 3%, and then the CPI the following year is 4%, that represents an increase, which means we're right back here at the table doing another Prop 218.
so you're saying 5% is a reasonable number.
Saying 5% is the max that it can be.
I understand that, but how did we come to 5%?
If I can, it's based
And
on
help me.
it's based on CPI.
Right. But why not 4%, for example?
Because if we set it at 4% and we did this public hearing that we're doing and we approve it all at 4% tonight, and then it comes back at 4.7% the following year, then we have to bring it back to the council for another Prop 218 in order for it to be approved.
The way I'm understanding it is that CR&R, at the worst case scenario, would need at least 5% increase to maintain operation effectively. That's the way I'm understanding this, right? Because anything lower than that, let's say it's a 2% or a 3% max, that would be insufficient for CR&R to continue to operate in an effective manner to provide the services that we need as a city. Thus, every time they would need to come back for a 218.
If they chose to run it like that. But
maybe it's a question for
CR&R's
Crystal.
Yeah, CR&R's question or request was not for 5%. And that's what we are allowed to ask for per the Prop 218 requirements.
So the state law, or the 218
Correct.
regulates that, is what you're saying?
Yep.
That's what, okay,
That's
so
the
that's how I'm
that's the
asking, where
maximum
do we
amount,
come
yeah.
from? Where does that number come from? Okay, thank you,
Mhm.
thank you, thank you. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my questions for now.
Crystal, if you could come forward, I'm going to kind of determine what was asked about graffiti paint out on the big bins. Give us your rendition of that, how you'll respond to that.
Well, if I could share, I think Lynn kind of touched on that in terms of we are proactively looking to address this when the driver comes by, sees a container, to the point that we may service that container maybe once a week. We may not see if in between that driver may not come in contact with that container. We have a good relationship in terms of we hear people in the city, our route managers, not only our drivers, are proactively looking for graffiti, not only during their collection, but anyone else out in the city. So if it's something we see, we want to make sure if the driver hasn't addressed it, we get the container exchange as well. So we are proactive. That's one of the items we know was a concern that was brought up at the last council meeting, and it's something that's already covered within the existing agreement, and we do proactively. So we're working together. We also get feedback from Public Works if their crews happen to be out and they notice it. If it's something where the driver hasn't gone by in a few days, it was recently tagged, we want to make sure that gets exchanged and taken care of. So we are proactively, that's something we constantly remind our drivers
Can
about
you
as well.
define driver? Is that the scout truck driver and or the
Yes,
trash?
yes,
It's
yes.
both of them?
Yes.
Have the
They're out in the city, they're out there looking, they're going to see the
But both of
containers.
them have paint with them?
They have, drivers have paint and the scout drivers as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Len, do you have any photos of the differences in how the bins can be adjusted for size?
No,
I'd like the public to see.
Not for this evening.
All right. Do you have anything, Travis? You're looking feverishly there.
Are we talking
I
about
like
the
for the
carts?
Oh, the carts. You're
Just the
talking about the
carts.
residential
Yeah, the
carts.
residential
Three different
carts.
sizes.
I would like the public to see what it is that's being proposed. Maybe it's in our staff report.
Crystal, if you could
I could at least explain it. I
yeah,
don't know that
while
we
they're
have a
looking for the
photo
pictures.
available, but we do have 3 different sizes. The majority of what residents have now is what we refer to as a larger size, our 95-gallon size. The next size down, the medium size, is the 65-gallon, and the smallest size, a 35-gallon cart.
But I know that that was an advantage to know that a resident can reduce the size, reduce their trash bill a little bit if they're not filling their container every week.
And what we're doing is we're changing to a tiered rate system. So a variable rate based on the size of your trash container. So residents already have those sizes in existence. They will get that new rate once it's approved, starting here on September 1st. They want to make an exchange, they certainly can do that as well. If they want to keep their larger size recycling cart, so let's say you want to step down and have a 65-gallon trash, you're doing a great job with recycling, you're filling up your recycling cart, you're filling up your organics cart, you can certainly continue to keep those larger. The sizes, the rate your charge is going to be dictated on your trash cart size.
And now, what is the time frame for everyone in the city to get a new trash cart, new container?
So we're preparing that, and that's going to be part of our plan for next year in terms of the cart exchange, but we're looking at probably about second quarter next year.
And everybody in the city will get a brand-new cart.
Yes, there'll be more information forthcoming. We have a plan to go over with Public Works team, and there'll be information forthcoming about that whole process.
Prior to that, can people exchange or get a smaller cart to reduce their bill, or is that going to wait till that happens?
You know, if there's a need to do it, obviously if there's something, damage to the cart or if there's anything like that, certainly call customer service. We will make sure that's exchanged for you. But you will have the opportunity, if you would like to downsize to a smaller one, with that cart exchange process.
Okay. All right.
I do have one question. When will you guys, or will you send out notices to all the residents that they have the option of changing those cart sizes? Will you guys send something to them?
That's going to be part of the outreach plan in terms of actually doing the whole exchange for all the carts within the city, is to, one, document what we have on file. If you have an opportunity to be able to change your cart sizes from what you currently have on file, we're going to give that opportunity for residents to be able to respond and provide a selection, basically.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, another question developed here.
Crystal, I believe CR&R will be offering also 2 different programs, one for low-income family and one for seniors.
Those still continue.
Those
yes.
still continue.
Mhm.
Can you just for the benefit of the audience, could you walk us through how do they enroll in that, or how do they go about getting that?
Yes, you can
discount?
simply call our customer service phone number, and they will provide the information in terms of documentation we need to be able to obtain those discounts available.
And what's that number?
Oh, you would ask me off the top of my head. I'll give
I
you
know
our
I know it by heart.
I'll give you our main customer service number,
Wendy's
one of
gonna
them.
provide it.
I know it.
I have the
It's-
714 number in my head,
It's
714-890-6300.
Does
But I can-
562-944-4716?
Wendy knows it better than me.
Does it sound right? I call often.
We can certainly get that, though. Yeah.
And a senior is anybody over 55?
I believe we have the age at 65, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to check at our paperwork.
Yeah, there may be interest in the room here as to how they can
Thank you.
reduce their trash bills, and I want to make sure that everybody knows about that
Okay,
possibility.
clearly, the phone number, 562-944-4716. You got it.
Thank
You
you.
were close. Huh?
Bulky item pickup.
Thank you for now, Crystal.
Yes.
All right, questions have been posed and answered, so looking for a motion to open public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the protest hearing.
Okay,
I will second.
all right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Sonny Sandinez, supported by Councilmember Wendy Morris. Please hold the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Denton,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas,
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. All right, so now's the time that anyone wants to come forward and ask any questions, or if you're protesting, this is your time and place.
Okay, I'm Mr. Whitehead, and my first question would be, were quotes from other trash companies solicited during the process before we signed up for another 8-year commitment?
Glenn, you want to answer those questions?
No, they were not. In order to solicit pricing, we would have to go out to a formal RFP.
No, we did not.
And it was suggested to me that I take a look at the franchise agreement, but the current agreement has not been posted. So when will correct information be available for us?
We're more than happy to make that agreement available.
So there's, is it going to be posted online, or how will they obtain it?
Because the one posted online is currently the 2011 agreement, but I had to file a Freedom of Information request to try to get information about the current stuff.
So have you received it yet? Are you still looking?
Well, the lady was outstanding, but it's still not able to see as much as I'd like to. And
All
it's
right.
not very helpful to be told to look at the agreement when there's outdated information online.
You haven't seen the 2018 agreement yet?
No, I don't believe so. Because it sounded like stuff was still being figured out, and I was told to resubmit another Freedom of Information request to get stuff once it's available.
Okay. So I'm surprised to learn this. I thought that was completed and online.
We're more than happy to make available the most up-to-date version of the agreement, including any amendments to that agreement
And that'll be posted online soon?
if we need to, sure.
Okay.
We can do
Because
that.
when I checked today, it was still just the 2011 agreement.
The most recent amendment that the council approved would have been on the council agenda just a couple of months ago also, so that is easily available through the council agendas also.
So it's posted online as part of our council meeting?
Yes, all of those amendments have been approved by the council, including the most recent one you guys saw, I want to say just maybe 2 months ago. I could be off, but whatever it was part of the council agenda.
So is it proper to send us on scavenger hunts when we're being told to look at the franchise agreement?
No, it's not,
Oh, okay, but, because that's what happened.
I appreciate that. and We're going to try to fix it.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come forward and talk about our trash contract?
Good evening, Mayor, Council Member. My name's Paula Grand. I'm District 1. I have a house. I was one of the 153 people that responded no. I have the senior discount, which means my trash bin holds 2 13-gallon bags. Not a problem. I would be interested in the smaller recyclable because I don't have that much recyclable either. but I am still opposed to the trash increase. Recently retired, so I'm on a budget like everybody else. The only thing you can't control is Liberty Utilities, which is a thorn in my side, Edison, gas, and now Calsan, or excuse me, that's the old name, CR&R. So I would urge the council to vote no on the increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. My name is Gregory Robson. I'm a resident of the neighborhood. Seeing the notice of increase, like, wow, what's going on? But I deal with another company, Athens Trash, and they just like raise the rate crazy. So by hearing that you're gonna have a trash reduction, it's good. That the rate's only capped at 5%, happy. And kind of like for me, I would like to have trash pickup once a month. I don't need every day, every week. That's it. Other than that, fine job. Thank you very much.
But you like the service. You brought up Athens. We're proud of what CNR is able to perform here.
Yes.
And I just wanted to hear from you firsthand, since you've had other trash collectors, how we rate.
With Athens?
Yeah, do we do better than Athens?
Well, the Anthem part I deal with is the commercial side.
I see.
So it's like
That's a hard comparison.
Yeah, it's a hard comparison.
I thought you
yeah.
were doing apples to apples.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So other than that, for the commercial side, I'm not happy with them on that. But other than that, everything else good. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thanks for coming, giving
All righty.
testimony.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
Hi, pull the microphone down, please, so we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And your name, please, and please sign the register there.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrea Landaverde, and I have not received any note from anyone. So I am wondering, how do you know that everyone received that letter? We were talking about 17,000 people or something like that, residents. I forgot the number, but I don't know how you make sure that we receive that, because my neighbor called me today and she said, "Hey, are you going?" And I said, "Well, to where?" So she explained me, that's what I'm here, but I really don't know what to do, because I don't know anything about that. So I'm aware that maybe other people is in my case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe, does your neighbor get a trash bill? Because it only goes to the customers that pay a trash bill. Okay.
I hate to say it, but we are at the mercy of the U.S. Postal Service, which hasn't got an A+ lately. But we expect that everybody received notice. Anyone else want to come forward?
Good evening. My name is Adela Garcia Guzman, and I'm here on behalf of my mom and my dad. We agree with our neighbor, who's also, they're also retired and on a budget, and the constant raise of, the trash bill, it just keeps going higher and higher and higher. And so we are actually neighbors, and we were the ones who called. I talked to other neighbors. I send them pictures. Hey, are you guys submitting your ballot today? They're like, nope, we didn't get anything. So I'm assuming that a lot of our neighbors, or I think the number was 6,000 something, that needed to be collected in order for the proposal to not go through. And there was only 100 and something signatures or ballots that were received. So I'm assuming that maybe you guys should consider sending out more information to letting more neighbors know, because a lot of my neighbors said, no, we would have gone to the meeting, or we would have turned in our ballot. We have problems with our mail as well, so I'm actually surprised that we got this. And I saw this today, and that's why we came. So we're opposing it, and we hope that you guys consider, another public hearing, or giving an opportunity for more residents to come out and be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come forward? Now's your opportunity.
council members and mayor. My name's Anthony Russell. How are you all doing this evening?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Thanks for coming forward and giving testimony.
Thank you. I had a simple question as to why the process of submitting bids for other suppliers wasn't done?
Because we were satisfied, they didn't raise the rate. Their responsibility for our recycling, the trash, and all the things they've done in the last 8 years has been stellar. And because they said we can continue to do what we have been doing and not raise the rate to our residential customers, we found that it would be better to stay with what we had, a known quantity, than try to go out and you saw what we had. There was a list put up there, and if Len wants to put it up again, it wasn't the lowest, it wasn't the highest, but we felt it was a fair, justifiable $29.13 monthly rate, with the option of being able to get a reduced rate if you're a senior or if you want to go to a smaller container. But we feel that that's a fair rate. There's a $5 difference between Athens and Cerritos, but knowing that the state has mandated so many changes in how our trash is dealt with, and we are now in compliance on all levels. CR&R has made sure that the containers they're providing us, the size of the containers, how often the trash is picked up, how it's dealt with, with the green waste and with all the other items, that we're in compliance. Whereas many of these other cities still have to face that possibility of being in compliance with the state mandates. But we're all in at $29.13. We got a guarantee of a first year of the same rate as we have had in the past, and the max that it can go up is 5%. I expect it might go up 1 or 2%, and that only has to do with their wage increase, the price of diesel fuel, and the price of all the other elements that go into running a business. But inflation has killed everybody, and we were pleased that they didn't come in at a lot higher than what we thought before. So we elected to stay with a known entity, and thought that that served our constituency the best.
Okay. I do, excuse me, you mentioned stellar. I remember within the last 8 years, it has been more toward the 8 years backwards, when the gas went through the roof, and they came in here crying, and you people wrote them a check. Boom. How does that going to happen if, we're doing worst case scenarios tonight. How about if gas goes to $12 a gallon? What happens? We come back in here and do this again with another bid? We just write them a check? Do you have funds appropriated for that to happen? What would happen?
Well, it's hard to talk on possibilities.
I understand that, but isn't that kind of how the 5% works, really?
Well, the 5%,
it's a possibility against the forthcoming.
Right, but that's our max that they can charge us. Now, if it goes beyond that, we would look at all the elements here, making sure that we're still competitive and that CR&R hasn't gone off the rails with the comparisons to the other cities. We all talk to each other. There's no secrets among cities and what is being charged. And I don't think CR&R would want to alienate themselves with an increase that wasn't justifiable. It could even be done. There are some cities, believe it or not, where the city pays all their trash hauling. They subsidize that totally. There are some cities that have that much money. Unfortunately, we're not one of them. But if this rate got to the point where it was out of line and we felt that the constituency needed it, I wouldn't be opposed to subsidizing some of the rates if it did go off the rails. That's just my own personal viewpoint. I don't know how the others feel. But this contract is one of the largest ones we award, other than the sheriff's deputies, and it's an important contract. And we have found a good supplier over the last 8 years that I just don't want to go out and change anything for fear that it would deteriorate. I've never had too many people come in here and talk about poor service from CR&R. We've made some changes, especially on the billing process, whereby people would complain that their money didn't come in quick enough, and as a result, they got a late fee, but we've adjusted that as well. We've tried to give some discounts on changing the containers. We've got the senior discount, but I feel confident that what you're suggesting will not occur.
Okay, so what did occur then years ago? Because it
wasn't 12%.
I know it wasn't, but I believe Mr. Dutton was still here at the time.
It was, and this contract has it too, an extra unordinary increase, like insurance goes through the roof or fuel goes through the roof.
Which is happening everywhere.
Then it happened everywhere, and I think am I wrong?
No,
When-
again,
There's
that is still in
capability
there. CRNR could still come and request an extraordinary rate increase, but again, it would go through the same exact process. So all the customers, commercial, residential, would go through the same notification for the Prop 218 and get to submit their protest on it, so.
Yeah, and as you remember, I remember that very well. That's when fuel for the first time went crazy, and I think it was about 8 years ago.
And
then the tipping fees too, I guess, where they go to deposit the trash. I think that was another thing on that agenda was the tonnage got increased at the landfills.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, and
Okay.
then I was also trying to, and we do appreciate the fact that we've gone to smaller containers. We'd like to possibly request even smaller containers. You know, as the price goes up, there's a lot of us that don't even need containers.
No, I get it.
Okay, and can bury our trash and
Apply for a 30-gallon one as
you
soon as
know.
you can, so you get that price down for you.
Right, I already have
Okay.
the smallest one that's available.
Okay.
Okay, but it's also I've never understood why it has to be every week and why there can't be certain people that can be on a certain list, especially now with the problem with it being higher, they can have it only every 2 weeks. It would seem to me like that would save CR&R a lot of money if they had a specific map that and they could even hire people that are non-union with CR&R to deliver it and do it. And it'd be a lot cheaper then too.
Well, the way it's set up, the drivers are set up to collect trash at every house, so it'd be difficult for them to say, hey, that address doesn't get it, there's nothing here.
But I still believe that's a buffer as to they get paid, because if a person's in the house or it's not in the house, they continue to bill.
Right.
All right. Do they do that to the city when they're on empty properties on the city? And who in the city makes sure they get paid and doesn't pay late fees? Because there's a lot of empty properties around the city. I'm sure CNR&R is billing the big, huge containers that sit empty that nobody administers or comes and empties.
Well, if a container's ordered for a property, then that responsible party, but if it's an empty lot, there's no container there.
Well, what about the bank over here? It used to be Bank of the West. Doesn't the city own Bank of the West?
Yes, they do.
That container still sits there. It has sat there for 20 years, on and off, whether there are people there or not there.
But the city still has activity there that requires trash disposal. That's not an abandoned building. We keep it active inside there.
Oh, well, it's news to me, because all I ever see is homeless people in front of it.
Well, they put out trash too, believe it or not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else like to give testimony? Going once? Like an auction?
And Mr. Mayor, if I might, for the record, on the
Yes.
website, there is the most updated version of the franchise agreement. It's including the amendments number 1 and number 2. The most recent amendment was number 3. Obviously, that's not on there quite yet,
All
but
right,
it's
so
available
you
through
can
the
hear that,
the
the gentleman
website
gave
agenda.
first testimony. Check the website, it's up to date. Okay. All right, well, we're updating it, and we've been looking online now to bring it up to speed. Looking for a motion to,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
all right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Victor Sanchez, supported by Councilman Sonny Sandianez. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas,
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. I'm going to declare a 10-minute recess at this time, so if anyone will stay for the rest of the meeting, it's okay. I know a lot of you are here for the protest, and that part of the meeting is over, and we're going to have a 10-minute recess, and we're going to resume here in 8:30.
Wait.
All right, it's 8:31. We're back in order here for our Monday night meeting, and we're going to need to vote on this action. But before we do, we're going to have some discussion among ourselves here, and I'm going to start off with Sonny Sandianez, who wants to say a few things.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Mr. Gorecki, one thing that wasn't discussed was the distribution of mulch. Right now, we're getting twice a year, which I really love as a gardener. And apparently, based on my recollection, we will be doing it more often. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and council members, so CR&R, historically, they'll try to do a couple free mulch giveaways here to the city. I think as part of the amendment, they have increased it up to 4, so they basically doubled it. We'll be doing quarterly giveaways. And a lot of that is that there's a desire from the community. We have a lot of gardeners here, so that works out really well. And then the other thing is that, we, as a city, are now mandated to deal with procuring organic waste and mulch. And it's just another opportunity for us to, if we have to procure it and put it in my parks, or we bag it and give it out to the residents for their home use and their personal use.
Okay, so that's going to be roughly every quarter.
It would be quarterly, yes.
Okay.
Traditionally, we have them over at Sims Park. Sims Park is going to go through a space confinement here for the next few years, well, with some major projects that we're going to do. Melanie, our analyst, who's in the audience next to Crystal, she put together a great plan where we're going to be doing it at the yard. So this next one that we're doing coming up, we'll actually be doing it at the yard. And we're making all those arrangements right now. Then we'll advertise it on social media and put it out there for the whole world. Melanie's advertising it during the farmer's market. She's out there almost weekly or bi-weekly or every other week promoting our organics programs here in the city. So we're doing a great job trying to get the word out as much as possible, and we welcome any and all to come and grab as much mulch as they can grab. So.
Really? Okay.
Well, you're limited. We have to spread we have to spread the wealth. So.
All right, and more importantly, we've been talking about the rate increase. I just want to emphasize, because I was asking the question about what would trigger Prop 218, and I was assured earlier that the only time it's going to be triggered is if there's any extraordinary mandate from the state. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Crystal, later on, is that my understanding is the cap is basically based on CPI, which is clearly defined. It's Consumer Price Index of all urban consumers, Series ID, CUS, whatever it is, not seasonally adjusted, which is published regionally. So that's the cap. Is every year they can only increase based on CPI with a maximum of 5% each year. So in the past, the rate increase is based on a very convoluted formula, if you recall, based on salary, wages, based on tipping fee, based on price of gas, fuel, and things like that. So we even, if you recall correctly, we even have to hire a consultant to make sure that the increase is within the guidelines. What I like in this contract is it is very straightforward. The CPI is the basis for the increase. And again, I just want to emphasize to our listening public, it cannot go over 5%. And I just confirm that if in the unlikely event that the CPI is over 5%, CR&R will eat that additional cost. They can only pass on the maximum of 5% to our residents. I think that has to be very clear, because there was some kind of discussion about the tipping fee, all these kind of fuel charges. That is out already. That's out the door. That's not being considered anymore. Again, the basis is the CPI with a maximum of 5% a year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez, do you have any comments?
No, Mr. Mayor. I think I understood exactly where the 5% comes from. I understood the cap differences. The question I had earlier was really related to what established that 5% allowable, and that's Proposition 218 basically. That states that the max is 5%. So that was my question inherently. And then I don't know if Steph has had a chance to look into the original agreement with regards to graffiti.
So I think what Councilmember Sanchez is referring to graffiti of bins, specifically the larger, like multifamily bins or commercial bins, 3-yard bins, and the proactive efforts that CR&R does for that. The existing agreement, in fact, the original agreement from 2011 and the amendments since then, require the company to maintain all of its properties, vehicles, facilities, and equipment used in providing service under this agreement in a good, safe, neat, clean, and operable condition at all times. So the requirement is there in the agreement. If there's questions about how we're going about doing that, that's certainly something that we can work with Crystal's team to be proactive about. And if we need to step that up on the enforcement, for lack of a better term, of the agreement, that's on us as staff, and we can do that. But it is a requirement within the
Very good,
agreement
thank you.
Okay. Ms.
Thank you, sir.
Morse, do you have any?
Was concerned for not, most of the people that did step up to speak tonight were notified by mail, but the couples that did, that were not notified, I am concerned for that. We know we've had a lapse in mail in the Bellflower Post Office, and, so of the 13,000 people that were notified and only receiving 150-something returned, it is a little, you have to wonder,
But I think it would be difficult for 6,000 pieces of mail not to arrive.
not to have arrived. I agree. And I do, most of the people that came were notified. That's why they came.
Okay.
But it was concerning for me.
And I think also we look at the history of when people send in the card, and it's tracking somewhat close to what it did before. It's not outrageous. Mr. Dutton.
My only comment is I was on the ad hoc committee along with Mayor, under the negotiations of CR&R, and they're an actual good company. Their track record shows it. And what we ask for them is certain things, the new equipment. There's, I don't know how many streets out there that has hydraulic fluid in the residential area leaked for there being the lucky ones on that block that one of the lines broke. That's why we're asking for new trucks. We haven't had new trucks in a long time. To the answer of why we didn't put this out to bid, CR&R had a few years left on their contract. We thought it would be a little more proactive to start ahead and negotiate with them before the time lapse of the contract. And slow roll new carts for everybody. I'm on a cart that's got to be 25 years old from one of the original, when CR&R took over from Calsan a long time ago. The other two fell apart. And now they're different colors. You can't get the same manufacturer that built that original cart. This way we can have all carts look the same again as you drive down the street on trash day. And it just kind of brings a little more aesthetics to the community. And yes, they have a smaller cart that hasn't always been around as a choice. Now there's going to be an additional smaller cart for people like you that spoke here tonight that don't acquire as much volume of trash, and be able to save a few more bucks on that. I think we're seeing some needs upon the state of California always putting these unfunded mandates on us, and they tell us to do things that cost money, and the latest is with the organics. The restaurants, commercial side has to have organic bins. We're talking food waste and organics. We're fortunate enough as residents to be allowed to put our organics and food waste in the green cart. And until that changes with the state, we'll see what happens. But right now, that's comfortable to do that. It's just the different mandates that come down from Sacramento, and they use the little governments like on city levels to try to do things and try to figure out how to do something. It always costs money, and how to get the revenue to pay for certain things. And it's one thing after another, sitting up here as long as I have, and it just baffles me. And we're the ones that have the people come talk to us, but nobody goes to Sacramento, and these people get put in office in Sacramento and put these taxes and stuff down on the little burden. The local government works the best. We have the littlest budget. We're reachable. You can see us here on the dais two times a month. And plus, we're out there. We have email addresses and phone numbers that you can call us. But back to the trash bill, CR&R's trash contract, the franchise agreement. It's a big deal, and we put a lot of thought in it, and we really believe that this is the best for our residents. Between the new carts and the new equipment, which all costs money. Everybody knows this world, everything costs more. Operate a business, it's crazy money, and then things go up. And when we look at the years of service of this contract, what we get is new equipment and minimal increases. And it seems to work. We've come to an agreement, and this is what was before us. And so there's a little more in the contract that we've seen, the franchise agreement, than just the price going up. And I get it when you get that postcard in your mail and the prices are going up, and here we go. We all know that the electric company, the gas company, they've all done it, water company, and they have to go through the Public Utilities Commission to get their raise. And nobody knows there. That's in San Francisco. They say come to these little meetings in areas, but no one ever does. But little Bellflower here has it, and we actually have a meeting, and it's easy to get to and have people come out and actually see who's in control of raising a bill, and that's us 5 people up here. And I just wanted to make those comments and explain the thought process. This has been ongoing probably for 6 months, and to get to here tonight. And I think we're ready to move on now. That's all, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dutton. So I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2451, a resolution establishing rate adjustments for residential, commercial, and multifamily solid waste collection services charged by CR&R Incorporated for a 5-year period commencing on September 1st, 2024. That's the motion on the floor.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by the Mayor, Dan Coops, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse?
No.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas?
Aye.
Mayor Coops?
Aye. All right, so that's completed. Moving on to 11B. Mr. Smoot?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Mr. Delalonga is coming up to get set up, and he's going to run the show on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Smoot. I'm going to have Carla Pineda present to the council this evening.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This public hearing item is to consider a loan application submitted by Sylvester Madrigal Jr., owner of Richie's Hot Chicken. His application is for Chapter 3.1 of the Business Assistance Plan. Chapter 3.1 of the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan was adopted on April 8, 2024, to provide matching loans to business and property owners for commercial facade improvements throughout the city. Loans through this program provide a match of 2/3 or 66% of eligible project costs, up to a maximum of $25,000. The funds will be dispersed through invoice reimbursements. These loans are provided at 0% interest and are forgivable over 5 years. Eligible project costs are subject to prevailing wages. Sylvester Madrigal, owner of Richie's Hot Chicken, has applied for Chapter 3.1 of the Business Assistance Plan for building facade improvements at 10333 Alondra Boulevard, specifically for building signage and branded drive-through directional signage. Staff reviewed the application package and determined that Mr. Madrigal qualifies for the program and meets all requirements. These requirements include the completed and signed application by both the business owner and the property owner, a signed partnership agreement with Richie's Hot Chicken, an executed copy of the property lease, cash flow projections, and employee job creation. This slide shows the renderings of the proposed signage on the building from its front and side views. Staff recommends the City Council open the public hearing, take testimonial and documentary evidence, and after considering the evidence, consider adopting Resolution Number 2452, or alternatively discuss and take other action related to this item. That completes my presentation. Staff is available to answer questions. Mr. Sylvester Madrigal, owner of Richie's Hot Chicken, is also present to answer any questions as well.
Thank you for the report. That was very complete. Mr. San Ynez, have any questions?
Not at this time. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll probably have some
Later,
questions
yeah,
at that time.
later on.
We'll call you forward in one moment. We're going to do the staff first.
Okay, thank you.
Victor, any questions of staff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just related to the funding source, I want to just, for the knowledge of the public, this is a program that we have, that we launch, that we budget for every fiscal year, or every, our bi-fiscal years.
Yes.
How much fund is available still in that pot of funding to do things like this, to support local small businesses?
I believe this year we funded 330,000, and we've used none for this chapter.
So we have approximately 330,000 budgeted, and for this chapter, we haven't spent anything yet. 2 weeks ago, we did do the Franck's Business Assistance Package, and so that would be the only one that has been used out of this fund so far.
Very good. I wanted to highlight that just because, we intentionally budget to do programs like these to assist small businesses get up and going, and so this is exactly what we want to see, right? We want to see an applicant like this come before us and use the funds, qualify, meet all the requirements, and so it's just exciting to see. So we've only had 2 applicants in the 2 years. 2 to 3?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Morse, you got questions?
No, thank you, Victor, for pointing that out. I was curious about that.
Mr. Dutton?
How long has this property been under construction? And I want to know how long, or vacant,
We'll
let's
get
say.
the applicant up here. He can
And,
tell the whole
well, no, I
history.
think there's more. I think this is a different owner than before. I just was looking at the history of the property.
So
And go ahead.
Okay. It's been vacant for 10 years, over 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No sense going back any further. And this operator here, how long has this operator been involved with the property?
He's been involved approximately 4 years.
Okay. Do we have a completion date anytime soon?
He intends to complete it by the end of the year.
Okay. And that's open?
Yeah. Open?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Open.
Okay. I can talk to him too. I just
Okay.
want to see what staff knows.
So, yeah.
Is there any recommendation of this money? Maybe, 4 years under construction. Is there any recommendation of this money to have some kind of performance agreement?
Council member and members of the council, the funds, under the guidelines, the project has to be complete within 1 year of the approval by the city council. So that's an incentive for him. Also, the building permit for his project, it expires at the end of the year. So that's his real motivation, is to get the thing done by the end of the year and get it open and operating.
What happens if we release the money and it doesn't?
If he can't open, then he's not he's violating the provisions of the contract, and we can have him pay the money back. But he only gets the money if he spends it. So if he doesn't spend the money, we don't reimburse him.
Okay. I'm just worried about longevity here. Thank you.
All right. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
All right, before we start, let's open the public hearing.
Make a
it's not
motion
a
to open public hearing.
Is it public hearing?
Second.
Yeah, it is, that's right.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Sunny San Ynez, supported by Councilmember Victor Sanchez. Without objection, that'll be the order. Welcome.
Thank you.
We've
Good
met
evening.
before, and I'm glad you're here
Yes.
to explain some of the questions.
Definitely, my
that,
pleasure.
we posed before you got here. And as you can understand, after 8 or 10 years of non-occupancy, we want to hear your side of what's going to be done.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Honorable Mayor Dan and Council. I didn't know it was vacant for 10 years. I didn't know that it was that long. I was from Downey. It's my neighbor, so I'm your neighbor. I've been doing business, and I have great friends here in the city of Bellflower. And when I inherited the property, I inherited a problem with homeless. If you didn't know, it caught fire. It was an arsenal by the homeless. It was on a Saturday night. I think it was a Thursday. That week, I had just gotten approved plans for which was originally not Nashville hot chicken. And so I've been in this project and have gone through multiple partners. Now I'm sole owner. Originally, it was supposed to be a Movida juice bar and a Nashville hot chicken. The two partners, and I say with all respect, they thought Bellflower was ghetto. It was not for their demographics.
Where's the respect in saying that?
But it's my neighbor, and I seen Downey, the city of Downey, really prosper in the last few years, and it started in their downtown when actually some of my friends, high school friends, opened up State Gallery. And it started there, and then it went from the Bastards, the restaurant bar, and then it went to Pardo's. And I see that a lot of similarity happening here with city of Bellflower, and I believe it started with Steelcraft. And I feel that the light is coming to Eucalyptus and Alondra. And what comes up for me is more than the business. It's more rebuilding the city. Thousands of people pass by Alondra. If not, I don't know what the count is. Like I had gotten the count. It's not by maybe yearly, by the millions that jump on the 605, and it's an eyesore to the city. And I want to be part of it to shine light to the city. And beyond all that, the projections and the funding and all that, I heard the problem of homeless, and I've done my best to keep up with it. I'm not a Chick-fil-A. I'm not a King's Chicken. I'm a small moms and pops, so I'm grateful for you guys considering me.
Share with the council how much money you've spent of your own money on this project.
Well, part of the reason it's taken me 4 years because it's been my own money, roughly about $750,000. Yeah, and I'm set to open.
And he's a renter.
I was going to say, you don't own the property?
No, originally that's the agreement I had with Mr. Ramnall, which was an old KFC. And again, I had multiple partners. Movida didn't like the city. The demographics didn't fit them. I'm a current owner of a couple Movidas, and that was the original plan. Movida's a juice bar. Their closest location is Downey. And originally it was supposed to be their first drive-through. There's multiple owners, and one didn't like the location. But I still believed in it, and I still believe in it. I think the drive-through, there's no Chick-fil-A, there's no that type of chicken. I mean, you have your Pollo Loco, and then you have a chicken spot in Steelcraft, another one off down the street, smaller, but it's not a drive-through. So I believe that we'll produce income for the city as well. But again, more than the monetary, it's really the light that it's bringing to the city. There's a vacant property across the street, and whoever gets that property, I believe, is going to benefit from the traffic that we're going to drive to that corner of Eucalyptus and Alondra.
So if we approve the loan to you, forgivable loan, this is going to be used in particular for your signage, correct?
Correct.
So the signs that we saw exhibited on the screen are exactly what you're going to put up.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a sign there. I believe in the permits I'm allowed. There's several. I don't know exactly how many, but there's a certain amount of signs I can have. There's also on the the drive-through sign, and there's one on, since it's a one-way entrance only through Eucalyptus and exit through Alondra, then there'll be a drive-through sign directing the traffic to the drive-through.
Are those signs illuminated, or are they strictly a standard sign?
No, they'll be illuminated, and there's also, you know, if there's enough funds, there's a sign that goes on the plans, a sign that goes on the top of the building. Kind of, it has like that in and out kind of red neon around it, and just so it can bring light in the evening.
You're going to have a dining area as well inside?
Yeah, there'll be dining area. It was completely redone from the KFC. The KFC it didn't have dining. It was an old-fashioned layout. So it's redone, where the customer was able to see the employees or the cooks cooking. You know, the people like to see people cooking their food. So it's an open layout. It's an open floor plan.
Is there a drive-through on this?
There is, sir. Yeah, there is, council member. There's a drive-through. Yeah, that's the big winner, the big key. It's grandfathered. I'm sorry, it's on the opposite side.
I know, yeah. I was going to say, you just straighten out.
I go to In-N-Outs.
The queuing of the cars.
I know.
That's why.
We actually designed like a special, kind of like a tray to pass the food.
To reach to the driver?
Yeah, but I've gone to In-N-Outs where I get my food, and on the opposite side, I don't complain. So
okay, but yeah, it's a unique drive-through.
It is.
I've lived here a long time. I used to use that drive-through.
Okay.
It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
it did if you had a European car.
Yeah. They didn't want the cars queuing on Alondra as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's been you know, a couple people have opposed that, and you know, have kind of didn't really like it. I don't know. I see further than that.
If it's good chicken, they're going to
yeah,
come.
they'll come.
So you understand the process. Now you're going to have the signs put up. You're going to give us an invoice, and they're going to reimburse you.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
When are you going to open? When do you think
council
you're going to?
member,
I'm not going to. I'm asking for a date.
realistically, well, actually today I got off the phone with the contractor. It's like 95% done by this week. The 5% is like the signs inside, the drive, the menus. But all the equipment will be installed. The flooring is done. The deco's done. And then they made a hole for the grease trap today, which that was another big thing. The old KFC used the old system to collect the grease, so we had to install a brand new grease traps, not just in the outside, but we had to create lines from the inside to the outside.
So you have a grease trap in the ground outside.
Yes.
The 3 containers, the 3 lids.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so
That's not installed yet.
It was actually it's being installed this week.
This week, okay.
Yeah, it's
got
paid
it.
for, being
I'm
installed.
thinking yeah, it's costly.
Yeah.
That's why I look at that. That should have been done first.
Yeah, I know some
But,
contractors.
yeah.
It's not my specialty. I wish.
Right.
I think I want to be a contractor now because it's
How many
like-
businesses do you have that are
Food-
I guess drinks and food, I guess, right?
This will be my fourth.
Fourth one would be your fourth store.
Yeah. First drive-through. I guess it's been like a small increase, and you know, from starting from Movida. I currently own a Movida in the city of La Habra.
You own that with
With
partners?
partners. Yeah.
And this is going to be you
Yeah,
have partners on the other one. This will be
Yeah,
just
this is,
you.
I'm sole owner.
Sole
Yeah,
owner. Okay.
So
That's
owner.
good.
There is a Richie's Chicken in West Covina, which he's the brain behind.
Oh, this is a franchise then.
Well, no,
Kinda?
no, it's not legally a franchise.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's I believe I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a builder, but when it comes to cooking, you probably don't want me in the.
There's no trademark on Richie's?
No, there's no trademark. I believe he has a trademark. Yeah, he has Richie's does have a trademark. Yeah.
That might be a problem.
They're together.
Oh, they're together.
Yeah,
Oh,
of
that's
course.
your friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, of course I wouldn't. No,
It's not a
I-
franchise, but okay, you can get to use the name. Okay.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, no, there's definitely an agreement in place.
Okay.
Or else I wouldn't have invested $750,000.
His main employment is a commercial real estate guy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So originally that's how I
Yeah.
found the property because Mr. Ramnall had it for sale for quite a while, But I didn't know it was vacant for 10 years. I had been
Yeah.
told it was vacant for like.
We're not hanging that all on you, don't
Okay.
worry. And I understand, 4 years ago you took this over, that's when COVID started, I get it.
Yeah, and
Building a
actually-
restaurant and COVID, you kind of
He's been paying rent for the last 4 years.
I hope it's a discounted rate.
Well, we've,
Like a fire rate, it caught on fire.
Yeah, there's, I doing my best, Councilman, put that all behind me and open doors. Yeah, once the open doors, it starts producing.
So you think you're gonna get open by the first of the year?
I will.
You
Yeah,
will, okay,
yeah, I
that
will.
sounds confident, I like that.
Yeah, definitely will.
Okay, because doesn't the permit expire at the end of the year?
Correct.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I believe we extended that once, but yeah, we're confident. It's gonna go
And
forward.
the drive-through on this, I don't want to get in the weeds here, but you mentioned grandfathered, but I can't possibly, we're just letting them have a drive-through without going to the planning commission?
Beth, do you want to come up and answer that one? Beth, the question is related to the drive-through on this.
Because there has to be a CUP, doesn't it?
Councilmember Denton, yes. Traditionally, or actually currently, new drive-throughs require a conditional use permit. My understanding is that this is an existing drive-through.
It is.
I know that they pulled permits back in 2001. I'm sorry, 2021. However, I don't know the facts behind why those permits were issued. But it could have been legal nonconforming. I don't know the details regarding that. But if it was obtained, if a CUP was obtained, then it runs with the land. And then as long as they've been in continuous operation, which I'm finding out that they have not been, then they're able to maintain the existing drive-through without going through the
I'm just curious is all.
planning commission.
Thank you.
Wendy, any
And-
questions?
yeah.
I have none.
All right, start over here. Mr. Sanchez, Victor. No, I'll do Sonny. Let's do Sonny. I started this, otherwise I forget
You're
where I'm
pointing at Sonny, and
I
then
know,
you're
I
saying
know.
Victor.
Sonny's sitting there. You want to do Victor? All right, Victor, you're on.
No questions.
All right, there, all right. Yeah, no, I try to give you the benefit.
There you go. Mr. Madrigal, first of all, I want to thank you for believing in Bellflower. Okay, let me just put it out there. And honestly, I feel sorry for your partners. I'm sure they're no longer your friends, right?
Just acquaintance.
Yeah. It's probably your brother-in-law or something.
You're going to prove them that they are wrong, right? You're going to
yes,
prove them.
that's actually been a fire. That's
There you
no,
go.
no grudges, but it's
I like that fire in you. I like that. Okay. So anyway, what are your days and hours of operation?
Well, that's to be honest, I don't want to be open too late, not close too early. I'm thinking usually like your typical, like Jack in the Box. Let's just say some type of. I don't want to classify myself as a Jack in the Box. I believe we're a little bit of a higher integrity. Nothing wrong with Jack in the Box, but we're a little bit higher of grade. But they usually do something like close the dining, and then leave the drive-through open. I would say max 11 p.m., 12 maybe on the weekends.
And what time do you open in the morning? Are you going to be open in the morning or?
Not quite
around-
yet, because it's more of just has a lunch and dinner menu.
Okay,
But we
but-
do hope to launch breakfast in the morning, just
Oh,
to
really?
take advantage of all that traffic going on Alondra to the 605.
Okay, because there's a couple of schools close by.
Yeah, schools, and then I found that with Taconazo is open late, it opens late. El Pollo Loco opens late. Del Taco is the only one that's open in the morning, but I went for black coffee and they only had Café de la Olla, and I didn't want sugar, that much sugar in the morning. So I was like, that's when the light bulb turned on. I was like, man, I need some black coffee right now, and I had to go all the way to the McDonald's down Alondra.
Okay, and in the staff report, it was mentioned that you will have 15 employees. How many of those are full-time?
Anywhere from about 6 to 8.
Full-time?
Yeah, full-time. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have the 2 managers staff ready to go with experience.
And then back to my first question, are you going to be open 7 days a week?
7 days a week. I would love to do the Chick-fil-A, close on Sundays, but I'm not sure if I need to produce some income.
Need your money back.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And then, what is the seating capacity?
Inside, it's about a little bit under 20, and I believe we did that because after a certain amount. And again, I'm sorry, I'm not the contractor engineer, but after a certain amount, I would have to do a double restroom, one for women and one for men.
Okay, okay.
So we kept it. Yeah,
So that's
especially
a-
with the drive-through.
That's a decent size. If you can sit 20 inside.
Yeah, it's a good size.
That's a good size,
Very modern look.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we're 60-70% of the sales will come from the drive-through.
Okay, okay. All right, very good. That's all I have. Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
Mayor.
Developer, any questions from his questions? No, you're okay?
I just wish you the best and
Thank you,
looking
brother.
forward to
Appreciate
your
it.
grand opening.
Yeah, I've talked to Carla and council about having. I always liked growing up and when I was in high school and there was a restaurant nearby and I can get a discount. So there'll definitely be some student discounts, law enforcement discounts. Yeah, really give back to the city.
All right. All right, thanks for your testimony.
Thank
You
you.
can be seated and we'll work it from there. All right, so I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I make
Unless
a
we have
motion-
any, do we have any testimony want to be given by the public? I should have.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
So we have the motion by Councilmember Sonny San Ynez, supported by Councilmember Victor Sanchez. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Denton.
Aye.
Councilmember Morse.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas.
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. All right.
Mr. Mayor, just like to make a comment here. Again, I'm really
Wait a
appreciative
minute,
that.
we got it. We did the public hearing. We got to vote on this guy's 25.
No, can I make a comment?
Oh, you're
Before I
gonna,
make-
okay.
before I make a motion.
Excuse me. I had the city clerk was looking at me, so I didn't
Oh,
know we
no,
were
no.
going that direction.
Ignore the city clerk.
All right.
Ignore.
I don't want to do that. I'll go to jail, you know?
Well, I just want to discuss about this because I think I'm really glad that we have this ability to help businesses. And looking at the application here, I'm very comfortable in what we're about to do if we're going to pass this resolution. First of all, there's a match, 60, 2/3 and 1/3 match. And it is on a reimbursement basis. That means that he has to spend the money first, bill us, and then we're going to pay him back. And it's a forgivable loan. I think from my understanding is the business owner invested so much money already, and he just needs a little bit of a push to basically cross the finish line. And in looking at the worst case, what is the worst case scenario here? What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is we give him the money after he completes all the signage, we get him reimbursed, and he doesn't open. That's, to me, that's the worst case scenario. But I don't think it's gonna happen because he's so much invested in the business. The $25,000 is basically a minutia compared to $700,000. So I'm really comfortable in granting this this funding to Mr. Madrigal. And again, thank you so much for believing in Bellflower. We need more people like you who take the risk and invest in our city. So with that, Mayor, if no one else would like to talk about this, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
For the city of Bellflower to adopt Resolution 24-52, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute agreement file number 1057 in a form approved by the city attorney with Mr. Silvestre Madrigal Jr. for building facade improvements at 1003 Alondra Boulevard pursuant to the Bellflower Economic Development Business Assistance Plan, Chapter 3.1.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Sonny San Ynez, supported by Councilmember Wendy Morse. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Denton.
Aye.
Councilmember Morse.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas.
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. All right, you're on your way. All right, we'll move on to 12A, ordinances and resolutions for consideration. Mr. Smoot.
Ms. Oba's going to take this presentation for us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Smoot. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. For some background on this item, the current entertainment permit regulations were adopted in 1973 and have not been modified since, with the exception of establishing fees. Currently, an entertainment permit is required for every form of live entertainment. There are exclusions in which an entertainment permit would not be required. Some of those examples include any kind of musical act with one person or with a solo player, such as a pianist or guitarist. And another example of an exemption is use of a jukebox or radio. Currently, the approval of an entertainment permit would require a public hearing in front of the City Council. While the city recognizes entertainment is desirable for businesses and the community, the BMC should be updated to protect public health and safety. These include regulations governing security, safety, and impacts surrounding businesses and residents. At your last meeting on August 12th, 2024, the City Council adopted Urgency Ordinance Number 1433, establishing a moratorium temporarily prohibiting the city from issuing permits for entertainment. This moratorium is for an initial 45 days and can be extended up to a maximum of 2 years. At the same meeting, draft entertainment regulations were included for the City Council to consider. Since your last meeting, minor changes to the draft regulations have been made, and these are mostly for consistency and clarification purposes. The proposed ordinances would replace in its entirety BMC Chapter 5.36 related to entertainment permits. The major changes between the current ordinance and the proposed ordinances are as follows. There are additional exemptions or inclusions to permit requirements. For example, entertainment provided at weddings are exempt from obtaining an entertainment permit, as well as student recitals and book readings. Those are just a few examples amongst the list of exclusions. Also proposed is a one-stop permitting. What this means is one-stop permitting is you would only need to obtain this permit. Other permits, such as like a temporary use permit, would not be required. Additional changes include applications must include a detailed description of security plans and sound equipment. Currently in the BMC, there is no requirement to submit a security plan or a detailed list of sound equipment. Other changes is the addition of general conditions of approval that would include maintaining liability insurance, abiding by designated operational hours, implementing safety measures such as registered security personnel, and alcohol-related conditions, including restrictions on outdoor consumption and mandatory training for employees serving alcohol. Another change includes the prohibition of disorderly conduct within the establishment and within 50 feet of the establishment. Additional changes which are not currently in the BMC include a requirement that changes to the permit application be communicated to the director within 30 days. The director may modify, suspend, or revoke permits based on new information, violations, or any extraordinary need for public safety services. There's also an appeals process that's established and maintains administrative oversight by the City Council. So for example, if there is a permit that was subject to an annual renewal and there was changes, those changes are reviewed by the director. If the modifications weren't approved, then the applicant has the ability to appeal to the city manager. And then lastly, the changes include violations that would constitute a misdemeanor and can be addressed through administrative fines, private enforcement actions, or by the city attorney. This includes the ability to recover fines, penalties, and reasonable attorney fees in civil actions to abate nuisances or obtain injunctive relief. This list covers the major changes between the current regulations to the proposed ordinances. One of the main requirements of an entertainment permit that's going to remain the same is currently there is a public hearing process in front of the city council. For a new entertainment permit, that would remain the same. The council is the approval body for any new entertainment permits. And then, if adopted, the urgency ordinance would amend the BMC to address the issues of concerns related to entertainment permit, and it would replace in its entirety BMC Chapter 5.36. The regular ordinance would achieve the same results. The recommendation this evening is to adopt urgency ordinance 1434 by at least a 4/5 vote to take effect immediately, and to read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 1435. Or alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great presentation. Only question I have is whether, if we approve this, how long will it take for it to become a permanent part of our BMC?
Well, you actually have two ordinances in front of you, and in the past, we've identified this as the belt and suspenders approach.
Okay.
So the urgency ordinance would take effect immediately.
Okay.
The regular ordinance would take effect 30 days after second reading.
Okay.
And it's the same requirements.
Okay. All right, so let's start on this end. You have a question, Wendy?
I believe I read it's 1973 was the last time this was changed.
Correct.
I just want to make sure I read that correctly. Okay. That was my only
So you
question.
can see where we needed some
Yes.
improvements. Mr. Dutton?
My question is I get the urgency ordinance, in the past, we do it and then staff would work on it. We got all this done in 2 weeks. I commend you because this is a lot, and on my tenure up here, an urgency ordinance can take 6 months, and sometimes we have to give them an extension. And I think we talked about that 2 weeks ago, and yet we got this.
Impressive.
It's impressive. You sure we got it right? It's only 2 weeks.
Councilmember Dente, we didn't reinvent the wheel, so there was already
right. There was stuff out there
regulations
from other
established.
cities, or
Yes, and then we just decided what best fits Bellflower and how can we
Right.
practically apply these standards to situations where we obtain entertainment permits.
Gotcha.
But most of the changes really are in relation to safety and security.
security, yeah. Where I know we've struggled with stuff that in the past and of seeing conditional use permits or rehashing, we have those abilities to put certain things in a conditional use permit. Where here, if there's not, we have this. Can you put like one of the first slides, the slides where it talks about entertainment and where it says live entertainment? The radio or jukebox, that concerned because that's like old school, like me.
Yeah.
Now they have this stuff that streams, and you put your credit card in this box on the wall. Is that included in that? Is it, you know what I mean?
It's very
like
similar.
Orange
so
Door is one of them, but there's several types of streaming music content.
it would be
That
very
covers it?
similar to
Oh,
a jukebox. So it
we're
would be
covered. Is
included.
basically I'm asking.
Yes.
That's enough to cover the new technology. Okay, that's all my questions.
All right. Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a couple of questions. I'm glad we're on this subject here. I'll start off with this. First off, thank you, Beth, for the presentation. On the exclusion sides, I'm not a musician by any means, but would it be difficult to include duets? I don't think there would be any harm in duets. You know, if there's a guitarist and a vocalist, I mean, I think it just, at that, you know.
Band.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a full-fledged band. I think that would be my recommendation for this body.
What about dueling pianos?
Well, like I said, I'm not a musician. I'm just saying, I feel like, I think that'd be an easy one to just kind of add in there to be a little bit more flexible with. That's the way I look at this stuff. When we're re-examining something that we haven't seen since 75, I wasn't even alive then, or 73. I just want to take the opportunity to kind of make it a little bit more flexible and accessible, right? So that would be my first one. And then the second one, can you define disorderly conduct within 50 feet? What does that mean exactly? going to the enforcement side of containing issues that may arise, not from duet singers, but, from.
There's actually a definition on page 7 of your staff report. And disorderly conduct means any threat to public peace, health, safety, and welfare, including without limitation disturbing the peace. And there's a penal code listed. There's several penal codes listed.
And unlawful assembly is one of the ones, right? And help me here, because obviously you know that there are other situations that arise, and it's so much, I don't know if it's around the entertainment side of things, but the gathering, the, drinking in the vehicles, dumping the trash and stuff like that. Is there anything within this updated code that addresses those concerns?
Councilmember Sanchez, there is alcohol-related conditions, and one of them, I believe, is the prohibition of outside consumption. So that would cover, people drinking outside of the premises without a special permit. So if it's like not outdoor dining, but in the parking lot, there is a condition that would prohibit that.
Okay, and littering, like littering in the parking lot and stuff like that. Can we, is that included in here to ensure that the business or whoever's the entertainment holder is responsible for maintaining their parking lots on a timely manner?
I don't believe there is a specific condition related to that, but that can certainly be added.
Okay, I'd like to make sure that's added on to here.
Councilmember Sanchez, I'd also add, in instances where a CUP would be required, we could have specific conditions, so you'd actually have two things. If they had a CUP for the operations, whatever they were doing, and you also had dance and entertainment, you have two separate permits, you have two avenues that we could take to ensure that they're compliant.
Perfect, wonderful. And then lastly, I want to talk about bingo. I can't remember for the life of me, but a couple years back, or 2 years ago, a year and a half, I can't remember, we had so many applicants for bingo. Do you remember what that was about? And are we addressing the concerns? I remember there were just some difficulties in nonprofits, or I don't remember what it was. Can you?
Generally speaking, the issues that we were having is that there were people that were wanting to establish bingo establishments for profit. And the code only allows for bingo establishments to be for nonprofits. And so there are strict requirements related to bingo in that, bingo licenses are only allowed for nonprofits. And if it's located at the site, they have to have that designated as their headquarters. So there was, I think, a group, maybe of 1 to 2 groups that were going around to the service organizations, trying to go in under the service organization and do their bingo establishment. However, there's specific code requirements that they could not meet by doing so.
And those have all died down already, right?
Yes, I have not received a complaint on bingo probably for the last 2 years.
I just jinxed it. All right, sounds good. So there's nothing there we needed to address then, is what I'm asking, right? It was just.
Correct, and bingo is regulated by a different chapter in the BMC.
Okay.
So if there are changes that are needed, it would be outside of chapter 5.36.
5.68. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate the presentation.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Mr. Mayor.
Sanchez. Mr. San Ynez.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Oba, there was something about the permit expires in 1 year. Is it in this, or was it 2 weeks ago?
It was included on the slide 2 weeks ago, Councilmember Sanchez, but it is still included in the ordinance.
Okay, but that's
the main
something,
difference,
that's a change though, right?
It's not a major change because we currently, current permits are renewable upon the first of the year. The difference between the current code and this code is that it's automatically renewed on the anniversary date of this year.
Okay.
And that's the proposed change.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I want to thank you for summarizing all these changes, so it's easy for me to follow. How about there are some exceptions. Can you show the next slide? There's some exemption in terms of events, is that right? There you go.
Home readings,
Like you mentioned about
weddings.
weddings. How about birthday parties? Are those exempt also?
One second. It is. It would be, so a more detailed list is provided on page 9 of your staff report.
Okay, okay.
And it would, so birthday parties would be under celebrations.
Mm.
And it would be for entertainment provided for invited guests at a private event, such as a wedding reception, banquet, or celebration, where there is no admission charge.
Okay, okay, that's good. Okay, all right, thank you. And then on the liability insurance, do you have any kind of amount that we're looking for?
So- Give me 1 second. Excuse me. It is. There is an amount of not less than $1 million
Okay,
if alcoholic beverages are sold or served during entertainment.
if alcohol is being served.
Correct.
If not, how much with the coverage?
Actually not specified, sorry.
Councilmember Santa Ynez, the city council has adopted insurance regulations for various types of agreements that we have. When these come before you, we would review it consistent with those adopted regulations, and you would have the opportunity to say this may need to be adjusted at that point,
Okay.
depending on whatever that entertainment might be.
So let's make sure that that's covered.
We have those existing regulations already adopted separately.
Okay, all right. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Mr. Santinez. So I'd open it up to the public. Do you have any comment you'd like to make about the possibilities here? All right, it's not a public hearing, it's
Nobody
item of
wants- Nobody
consideration.
wants to talk about entertainment, huh?
Well, apparently not.
We need a 4/5 vote.
Yeah. So, because you had some amendments to what you wanted to, let's discuss those things, see if you get some agreement with you.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I think the first one was just, adding the duets to the exemption list. Just makes sense to me. And then the other one was on the disorderly conduct, including the littering and loitering component to it, so that we have another enforcement mechanism to handle some of the issues that do come about in some of these establishments.
I know you're sensitive to these activities
Yeah.
since you have observed them firsthand.
Yeah. So those were the two that stood out to me from the get-go. So
Just clarification, when you say duet, just two singers?
Or an instrument.
Two
right.
guitars.
So if you have a vocalist and you have a guitarist, for example, right?
What if, let's say, you have one playing the piano and one playing the guitar?
That's fine too.
That's a
It's
duet.
It's a duet, okay.
Yeah. The key is two.
All right, looking for a motion on this, guys.
I got a question.
Okay, the
Sylvia.
question.
I was waiting to get in. And a little bit on Mr. Sanchez's thing, the bad conduct within 50 feet of the establishment. I just think of all that whole downtown. It's public sidewalks, street parking, city-owned public. I mean, how do you enforce that on a business owner when it's not their property?
I think we're just asking to manage your,
yeah.
people that frequent your place.
Yeah,
Right.
the security guard, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
There's something about it. I mean, technically, it's public. Yeah.
But we're trying to hold them responsible for some of those activities by their patrons, aren't we?
Yeah, and I can see that in the downtown being a little bit more issues.
But yeah, no, I can, but, you know.
And that would be more of an
Is it
enforcement
defendable?
question.
Yeah, where you might see something like this as an example
Yeah.
is, for instance, you had entertainment at a particular venue one evening. You might have a line going out waiting for folks to get into that venue. You could have
Fight break
a
out.
fight break out in that line. Well, it's clearly attached as part of that event. That's what I think this would be trying to address, that sort of instance.
I mean, I don't know, it just
Yeah.
seems.
Managing your patrons.
Right, and then for the
It's-
locations with their own parking lot,
Okay.
I'm talking about the aftermath that happens really, which is the.
Yeah, if it's an attached parking lot, yeah,
Right,
then you
right.
can require a security guard
Somebody's got to
Yeah.
pick that
on
mess
premises
up.
to check it. I'm just thinking of
No, I get it, and I think that's
government
more-
overreach. you
Right,
know?
no, I totally get that. And this is where the discretion would by code enforcement, right? Yeah, well, that's where.
Yeah, we all know it needs to be taken care of, but,
Right.
you know, it's, you know, I
That's
just.
more
I
procedural.
can just see, that's how whole downtown setup. No one has their own parking. It's street parking or city lots.
Right.
You know, it's, turns almost civil. But, okay. That's all, Mayor.
Okay. So we need a motion, if you so desire.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt urgency ordinance number 1434, an urgency ordinance amending Bellflower Municipal Code, Chapter 5.36, related to entertainment permits, and read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 1435 dash. Why are you looking at me like that, Carl? And ordinance amending Bellflower Municipal Code, Chapter 5.36, related to the entertainment permits, with the two amendments of adding the duets to the exemptions and including the loitering and littering as a form of enforcement with regards to the disorderly conducts.
All right. There's the motion. Who wants to support it?
I'll support it.
All right. So the motion by Councilmember Victor Sanchez, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas,
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. Moving on to 14, which is the consent calendar. Anybody have any conflicts on the consent calendar items? Seeing none?
None.
Are there any items you'd like to pull for separate discussion or consideration?
No.
No?
No.
Motion the consent calendar?
Okay.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Victor Sanchez, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas,
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. Let's do our council reports. Mr. Santinas.
I have no comment tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just quickly want to say, you know, it's back to school, everyone. We're for me with kids and for everyone who has little kids. And it's just good to see everyone back in that mode. And just glad we had a great summer, great events all around. Parks and Rec did an awesome job. Thank you, Public Works, for facilitating and helping Parks and Rec and everyone that made that possible. So just want to thank everyone, all city staff, for a great summer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Morse, got any comments?
I enjoyed going to the First Things First, the prayer at the school district. I was my first time being able to attend. I've always had small children that I had to get ready for school that in the morning. And this year, my teenagers were able to do it themselves. So I enjoyed that. Yeah.
Mr. Dutton.
I remember those days when the teenagers got squared away. Congratulations. No comments tonight.
All right. So my comment is, you know, we've had unseasonably warm summer, and one of the reprieves that the mayor allowed was to wear these more casual shirts rather than coat and tie. And the original concept was that it would start Memorial Day and it would conclude Labor Day. Now, I'd like to extend that for a month beyond that, and if you could look at the date, Madam City Clerk, so we can establish what date it is, so nobody comes back and says, oh, Dan, that's not the case. So, but I want to extend this thing for at least 2 more meetings, which would be a month. October 8th or something?
Yeah, well, it's, remember the first 2 weeks of October are scorching.
Right.
October 14th, I believe, would be the
All
date.
right, so.
November, we could start in November.
Well,
Mr. Mayor.
yeah, now you're pressing it. All right, so we're going to go to October 14th with the dress that we're currently using, and subsequent to that, we'll be back to our regular dress code. Two more meetings, does that sound right, Madam City Clerk?
Gotta be more than that. We have 2 meetings in September. 3 more meetings, yeah.
3.
Yeah, 1 in October, yeah. Okay, 3 meetings.
All right, so for next three meetings, including October 14, we will be in the current garb. Mr. City
Summer
Attorney,
wear.
do you agree with such a thing?
Can we do flip-flops?
There you go. All right, so that's my council reports, a gift to the council and myself on more lax clothing. So we're going to adjourn this regular meeting to Bellflower City Council at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, September 9, 2024. It's 9:40. We're adjourned.